Geez, I hope you can act as well as you can fillet, Mr.
Sauron. Paul Sauron.
Huh. You seem more like a John to me. So, tell me, Mr. Cerrone, what does an actor do when his career fails?
Fail? Who says I fail? I didn't fail.
Well, you are in a movie with Eric Stoltz about man-eating snakes, so I wouldn't exactly call it a success, either.
May I ask what you're hunting?
I'm not hunting anything, just reviewing. The Anaconda series, actually.
I seen him.
Oh, well, that's great. You can help me insult him for the next 13 minutes.
This I can do.
And this is Movie Night. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Jonathan Paula. Tonight we begin a series of episodes dedicated to monster movie franchises, and we'll start with the surprisingly virile Anaconda series, which of course began with the titular entry, Anaconda. So bad it's good. Despite negative reviews, this $45 million adventure horror film from Luis Loza grossed an impressive $136 million at the box office, following its April 1997 release. The 89-minute feature follows a documentary film crew who are taken hostage by a violent hunter who is also on a quest to capture the world's largest snake, the deadly Anaconda. At the film's center, as the enigmatic and dangerous snake hunter, is Academy Award-winning actor Jon Voight. His character is certifiably insane, but everyone reacts to his creepy and bizarre behavior with curious indifference. His sizable paycheck notwithstanding, it's actually obvious why Voight accepted this unique role. The cheesy dialogue and scenery chewing is definitely something he appears to enjoy. With a weird South American accent and a slick-back ponytail, Jon went full bore into this role without any shame whatsoever. His character gives some particularly specific advice to his captive shipmates when he remarks, "Never look in the eyes of those you kill. They will haunt you forever. I know." Simultaneously captivating and awful, this unique performance is truly the work of a dedicated actor. As for his eclectic group of co-stars, each have done excellent work in other projects, but none are suited for an adventure film like Anaconda. The hodgepodge assembly would have been better led by someone like Sylvester Stallone or Brandon Fraser. Instead, we're stuck with Jennifer Lopez, Ice Cube, Eric Stoltz, Jonathan Hyde, Owen Wilson, and Danny Trejo, who may collectively be the most grossly miscast group of players in the history of film. None of their character profiles are believable. Lopez is supposed to be a film director, Ice Cube as her stalwart cameraman, or Stoltz as an Amazonian anthropologist? Only Hyde's portrayal of a prim and proper Englishman feels authentic. Considering most of the action takes place on an ugly boat and nondescript jungle rivers, the cinematography manages to keep things interesting without getting too claustrophobic. The orchestral themes from Randy Endelman sometimes elicit discomfort during the scarier scenes, but often feel out of place with the darker PG-13 rated material. A combination of convincing animatronics, practical effects, and CGI help create the titular snake, whose slimy appearance and ferocious speed make for one really scary monster. The same cannot be said, however, for the movie's many sequels, as the slithering creatures look less and less realistic with each passing entry.
Don't move! I get it with a tranquilizer!
This picture is a weird experience. It's objectively quite terrible, but also consistently entertaining. Technically speaking, it's a reasonably competent production with all the trappings of a major Hollywood release. But the script, acting, and narrative are all completely dumb. This conflicting identity may be why the film was nominated for, but lost, all 6 of its Razzie Awards. A paradoxically enjoyable entry in the creature feature genre, Anaconda is a must-see cluster of campy characters and fun action. And it's also tonight's featured review, so here's what you had to say about it. Despite its obvious faults, you were favorable to Anaconda, with the movie night audience rating it an average of 7 out of 10. Personally, I thought it was just alright. Now for a review of the first sequel, Anaconda's Hunt for the Blood Orchid. A day late and $1 short. 7 years after everyone forgot about the mediocre original, Screen Gems decided to sink $20 million into this even more forgettable sequel. But somehow the adventure horror film by director Dwight H. Little managed to more than triple its budget after premiering in August of 2004. Now, the only elements that made Anaconda slightly redeemable were Jon Voight's manic performance and the cool special effects. So naturally, when constructing the sequel, this movie's 7 writers instead copied that movie's boneheaded screenplay and moronic character development. Beat for beat, this 97-minute film shares the same stupid premise. A group of well-to-do Americans venture deep into the tropical jungles of Borneo to look for the titular flower, before a hostile character they picked up along the way double-crosses them. And of course, giant snakes hunt them at every turn.
Ben?
Ben?
Where'd he go?
Ben! Ben? Ben!
The predominant theme in the franchise seems to be that humans are more vicious than snakes. In keeping with that tradition, Matthew Marsden does solid work as the treacherous antagonist who betrays everyone for personal gain. But Morris Chestnut, Katie Strickland, and the rest of the TV talent are nothing more than hors d'oeuvres for the hungry man-eating reptiles. None of them are unique, memorable, or even interesting, but watching them get crushed and eaten alive does provide for some fleeting thrills. With competent visuals, satisfying deaths, and a fast-paced narrative, this PG-13 rated project is honestly far better than it needs to be. But it's also exactly as stupid as you'd expect. But then again, that's why we watch these types of films, for mindless, shut-your-brain-off amusement. You might forget the experience within a few hours, but you won't necessarily regret watching. Anaconda's Hunt for the Blood Orchid is dumb, forgettable fun, and a meh flick. Third tonight, Anaconda 3: Offspring. Borderline awful. This discount Deep Blue Sea knockoff was released as a sci-fi original TV movie in 2008 and loosely ties into the, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, established Anaconda universe. Directed by Don E. Fauntleroy, the entire adventure horror film was honestly an exercise in exploitation. The 91-minute creature feature is cheaper than the Walmart bargain bin it now lives in, and what little money Sci-Fi did have, they used to secure Baywatch's David Hasselhoff. But sadly, it seems like they could only afford a few days of his time, which is why all of his scenes take place in generally the same area while wearing generally the same clothes, as the story repeatedly makes excuses to exclude him from a vast majority of the action. Missing from nearly every key scene, the Hoff is always running late or with the other team. Despite receiving top billing, he's nowhere to be found. But when he is on screen, he's easily the most entertaining part of the R-rated movie.
For Eileen without me.
It wasn't my idea.
We have to find it! We have to kill it!
Take it easy. What do you want to do? Grab it by the tail. We're gonna find this thing, all right? Relax, relax.
10 years ago, Hasselhoff was better known for an infamous drunk hamburger video rather than his acting ability. But compared to the theater school dropouts around him, he looks like a career veteran of Shakespearean theater. At least lead heroine Crystal Allen is pretty cute in her tight tank top though, so Offspring has that going for itself, which is nice. Everyone else, including an angry performance from John Rhys Davies, is relegated to hapless walking lunch for the titular monsters. But this time around they've gained a new ability, piercing people with their barbed tails. Speaking of the snakes, they lack any subtlety or realism, and showcase some of the most laughably bad computer effects of the 21st century. The giant 60-foot creatures look like goofy cartoon lizards, and are far worse than their counterparts in the 1997 original. The decline in quality of these crucial effect shots over the intervening 11 years is aggressively terrible. It's like if you watched the Star Wars films in episodic order, but magnitudes worse. Anaconda 3: Offspring is a lazy and hackneyed experience that provides just enough stupidly fun moments to be tolerable. I thought it was bad. Finally tonight, let's review Anaconda 4: Trail of Blood. Geez, where do you even begin with a picture this inept? The unneeded fourth installment from the franchise that just doesn't know when to quit premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel on February 28, 2009. This time around, the giant man-eating snakes, which now have the ability to regenerate when injured, are terrorizing a bunch of hopeless meatbags wandering the Romanian woods. The unimaginative 89-minute script is a direct sequel to The Offspring, with the occasionally capable Crystal Allen returning to lead duties. With a tight tank top and pistols strapped to both hips, she certainly has the look of a sexy action hero, but everyone else is a downright embarrassment. The made-for-TV script is so pedestrian and silly, I doubt even Meryl Streep could make it work. John Rhys Davies returns as well, as the dying mogul desperate to obtain a MacGuffin serum to prolong his life. Featured only briefly in bookend segments, his entire performance amounts to little more than posturing and expositional monologues. 8 minutes into the R-rated film, after a predictable scientist gets eaten by his lab experiment cold open, the film cuts to its primary establishing shot. It's our first proper introduction to the setting where we'll be spending the remainder of the runtime. And yet, this 10-foot crane shot of a jeep pulling into a thinly crowded forest is perfectly emblematic of Trail of Blood's many issues. For starters, giant anacondas don't live in the forest. Secondly, Arial font in plain white? Come on guys, at least show some imagination with your titles. Moreover, are we actually meant to believe this clearly flat area is the Carpathian Mountains? Third, is this really the most evocative shot director Don E. Fauntleroy could come up with? A slow-moving crane shot beneath the tree line of a nondescript forest in Eastern Europe? It provides no sense of scale, excitement, or more importantly, geography. The key tenet of an establishing shot, as its name would suggest, is to establish where the action will take place. And you know what other movies are filmed entirely on location in Romania? Steven Seagal's direct-to-video work. Not a trait you want to share. Now, I've spent a fair amount of time complaining about a single shot early in the film, and there's a reason for that. When your locations are uninteresting and the composition's unengaging, your audience is going to check out. And after only 500 seconds, I was mentally disconnected from this movie. Worse still, the one alluring aspect of these types of low-budget creature features, dumb characters getting eaten alive by scary monsters, simply isn't satisfying in the slightest. Frequent cutaways to disemboweled bodies and animal carcasses are sprinkled throughout in an attempt to gross out the audience into paying attention again. But it doesn't work. Conversations are littered with random and unnecessary extreme close-ups, while the computer-rendered 30-foot snakes look like a cartoon screensaver pasted on top of the frame. The music is nothing but bland, pre-composed, royalty-free tracks, and not even the stuff you'd have to pay for. I've literally spent more money scoring my YouTube videos than Sci-Fi did on this pile of crap. And speaking of audio, what's with the sound effects? The titular creatures literally growl like tigers and squeal like wounded pigs. At least I remind the film's brain-dead writer, snakes don't have vocal cords. This franchise began as a shameless guilty pleasure, but has only sunk deeper and deeper with each regrettable installment. And while previous entries benefited, however ironically, from their scenery-chewing villains like Jon Voight or David Hasselhoff, Trail of Blood has none of that and is irredeemably flat. A boring, poorly made slog, Anaconda 4 is cinematic garbage. But hey, at least we can enjoy this hilarious freeze frame of one of the dumb mercenaries mid-tackle. The fifth and final entry in the Anaconda series is actually a crossover with the Lake Placid series, so we'll be saving that for the next episode, when we review all 5 entries in that similarly terrible franchise. Until then, please click this information icon to watch some related videos. My name is Jonathan Paula, thanks for watching, and have a good movie night.